Hey folks, so I just got done dropping Toast, our board that had the issues, off at the processor. Literally just backed in with the trailer and wanted to get these thoughts out of my head. So, you know, in life, multiple things seem to spring up, or somebody says something from multiple different people all at the same time. I don't know what that weird coincidence in life is, but I've been binge listening to the Farmstead Meatsmith, and Brandon said something that just super resonated with me. And then last night, my wife Claire had looked at me and said, "Are you going to be okay taking Toast into the processor? You love that boar." And he's my favorite boar I've ever had. He is just stellar. Like, that is, if all of my pigs had turned out like him, I'd be super happy, minus the pecker issue. So, and my response to her was like, and pretty off the cuff, like it took me a second to realize, like, well, why? No, it is not going to emotionally bother me to take him to the processor. It does sadden me that he didn't work out, right? That I can't keep him around. But it is not going to sadden me to take him to the processor. Because in my head, there is a cognitive dissonance. Like, I can separate these two things from losing a boar, right? Like when Benedict died, that broke me up, right? That was rough. But that's because he just died, right? So it'd be the same as, like, if I have to put one of my dogs down for something, you know, when they get older, right? Like we've had to put down some older dogs before that hit 13 years old. And it is rough. Like when we lost Terry earlier this year, that's rough. Putting an animal down is rough. But taking livestock to the processor, that is different. In my head, that is different because, and it goes back to what Brandon had said on that podcast episode, which I don't remember the name of the episode, so I'm sorry. But what he had said was, you know, there are a lot of these people that say, and we used to have them all the time coming. That's probably why it resonated so deeply with us, is that we would have these people come to our farm when we used to do farm to table dinners, and they would get the farm tour before, and they would see the animals, and they would say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that you're going to kill that poor little bunny or that pig. Like, I don't know how you do that." And as if we shouldn't be okay with killing our livestock. And I'm sure there will be a lot of people that, you know, like, well, no, you shouldn't, and the vegan folks that are behind all that and everything. But, like, you should. And you are. Okay, and that was the biggest caveat that I got from what he said. You are okay with it. Absolutely, you are okay with it. If you eat food, you are okay with animals dying for your food. And I know that sounds super controversial. Like, when I first heard him say it, I was like, what? And then he continued. You would be okay. You would eat that same pork, that exact same pork, right? That you were like, that you want me to struggle for emotionally, and that you would struggle emotionally for, right, taking it in or killing it yourself. But if someone just handed you a pork chop, odds are you're going to eat food today, right? Like, Charlie Arnott always says when he goes to shows and talks, like, he's like, hey, if you ate food today, raise your hand. Everybody raises their hand, right? Because everybody eats. And for every food that exists, something dies for that food to exist. Produce, meat, everything, something dies for that food to exist. So you're totally okay with eating that food, right? Because you need to live. We are part of the circle of life. So if you are okay with eating food, you are okay. Because if you weren't, you just don't eat food, right? No, because you can't. You have to be okay with the fact that something died for that food. We are not separate from the food chain, whether you're just a vegetarian, vegan, or an omnivore, or a carnivore, because there are a few of those out there nowadays. That's getting pretty popular. Something dies for your food, okay? And what makes it okay in my mind to eat Toast, right? To take him in and be like, no, this is different. When an animal dies for me and just dies of, you know, old age, where their body has slowly deteriorated over time, and that's rough to see, you know, some disease, or like Benedict dying from heat stroke. What gets me and makes it rough, I think, is knowing that that's the end. Okay, that, boom, done. That is the end of what they contribute beyond going to compost or whatever. that's the end of their life. That is the end of their contribution until they are reincorporated back into the soil to renew that circle of life and to continue it from there, right? But that is the end of their contribution. So for me, taking livestock in, right, they're not done. Their life they did not just die to die, okay, and then be the end of it. Toast is going to come back. Like, we're going to not come back to life. Toast will come back to us, and we will either eat him, assuming he doesn't have boar taint, or our dogs will, right? And we're going to eat meat either way, right? Whether or not he came back to us, we're going to eat meat. And our dogs are going to eat meat either way, like whether Toast was out of the picture or not. So this way, Toast still gets to contribute to our lives, to making us healthier, to making our dogs healthier, to reducing the amount of kibble they eat, or reducing the amount of meat that we eat that didn't come from our farm. I know that while I got to give Toast all the love I could in the world, all the belly scratches and ear scratches that he could ever want his entire life, he now contributes that back to giving us a healthier life. That, for me, knowing that that circle does not end, that he is coming back, he is contributing to keeping me alive and healthy, or my family, including my dogs, alive and healthy. That makes me happy. That knowing of the circle of life is continuing and that his life had purpose and meaning, that is what makes me not sad to take an animal into the processor. Knowing that I gave them the best life possible, and in trade, he'll continue to give me the best life possible. So, there you go. I'm sitting at like 7 minutes. I was going to try to make this a short or a reel, and maybe I'll try to pare my thoughts down a little narrower. I know it'll become real controversial then because I won't get to explain my thoughts, but that's how I feel you should feel about it. Or some variation thereof, of course. Like, everybody's going to have their own interpretation of that, but that's kind of where my head is sitting on this.